At the end of the day, I think that you have to have a clear idea of how, as a franchisor, as a brand, how are you going to be successful? Like, what is going to make us successful? So when we got to the fifth stores, we started like thinking, hey, what about if we start franchising? Well, let's open more and let's make sure that we can actually, the concept can survive and can thrive in different cities, different demographics. So we let's concentrate on that. Once you get into franchising, it's just like you're investing into our brand, and that money gets invested, and we don't want to lose your money. At the end of the day, you're an entrepreneur, you're the one that is going to take the risk, but we want to mitigate that risk as much as we can with the information that we already have.
13 corporate locations. That's how many stores the founders of Movita Juice Bar own themselves. Now, it's rare that you see a franchise that owns 13 of their own stores. So, when I met Jorge, one of the co founders of Movita Juice Bar, I was really curious about how they were building a franchise system with owning 13 locations of their own. It's something you don't really see in the franchise space. So, in this episode, Jorge and I talked about how they've been so successful in this space with their corporate locations that are showing in their FDD that they average $1.2 million in sales per store, which is wild. We also talked about some of the mistakes that he's made along the way and what to avoid when opening up this kind of franchise or just opening up a franchise that has a retail location, period. I think that's going to be very insightful and enlightening for you because it was for me. And really, what's clear to me is that Jorge and his business partner are really focused on doing things the right way in their franchise system, as opposed to just selling a bunch of franchises. So, this one is definitely worth a listen to understand more about how they are doing what they're doing and supporting franchisees in being successful. Now, if you want to buy a franchise in the next 12 months, you should check out my free franchise masterclass at franchiseempire.com/masterclass. And if you want to work with me and my team on finding or buying a franchise or resale business, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/ZTPF and you can schedule a free call. And we're happy to see how we can answer your most pressing questions and point you in the right direction. So, with that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Franchise Empire Show. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, and building your empire doesn't happen overnight. My name is Tarek Johnson, and owning franchises is what helped me go from employee to employer and start building my empire for my family. So, this podcast is for you, the empire builders. For those of you who want to build something that stands the test of time. This is for those of you who are crazy enough to believe that you can make the dream in your head come to life. This podcast is all about bringing you real people who are building real empires so you can get inside their mind and heart and get proven strategies and actionable insights that will catapult you to build, grow, and scale your empire. All right, Jorge, welcome to the Franchise Empire Show. Good to have you here, man.
Hey, thank you, Tariq. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm excited for this conversation. So, you and I met at a franchise conference where I was a panelist or judge. There was like a pitching competition to like pitch your franchise. So that was pretty cool, and I was really impressed by just what you've built with your company and your brand. So thanks for coming on.
No, no, thank you. By the way, they got me off guard on that panel, so I don't know how rough that was.
How did they catch you off guard? What do you mean?
So I wasn't prepared. So I was there, and then Rafael, which was one of the persons that was working on that show, he says, "Hey, like you own a franchise, right? Do you have franchise stores?" I says, "Yes." Okay, so why don't we put you on the panel and do your pitch? I was like, "Oh, okay."
That's hilarious. You know, this brings up something interesting, right? And I mean, you're a very successful entrepreneur. Is that the whole concept of like there's you ever heard that phrase? if you stay if you like, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree with you. You always got to be ready.
Yeah, so, like, what are the like, who knows what happens and comes from this podcast, but think about that. If if you weren't presented with that challenge, which might have made your hands a little sweaty or maybe a little bit nervous, like, "Holy crap, I'm not prepared for this. What am I gonna say? How am I gonna do this? This is gonna be uncomfortable." But you stepped into the uncertainty, and now look what the positive consequences and impact of that is. Did you think have you thought about that for this specific scenario in that event?
You know what? I didn't think about it, but I'm always ready because I know things can happen. And when you go to those events, you just got to be ready, right? You got to be ready with the elevator pitch because it could happen at any time. So I didn't think it was going to happen specifically on that conference or on that location, but it actually happened, and I'm always try to be ready for those.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and, from my lens looking on the outside, I think it's, cool because after we did the panel, you said, "Hey, man, I've actually watched your YouTube channel and stuff, and like, can I come on the podcast?" And, because we had that dialogue and that interaction, and I was, really impressed with what you've built, which we'll obviously, dive into. I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Come on. Yeah, come on and join us." But, really, like over the last month or so, I've made the decision really not to have franchisors on anymore and just primarily talk to franchisees. So if we hadn't had that interaction talking about your business and that panel thing, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, it would have been tough. I can tell you that because I sent you. I've sent you before. Some
Oh, have you?
uh, messages.
Oh,
Yes,
that's funny.
but yeah, I know you're busy, and the.
Oh, yeah, I have
I know that face to face is always kind of like this best way to interact,
100%.
and that's why I go to those events. That's one of the reasons why I go to those events because I actually meet people like you, and I get this type of opportunities.
Mm. Yeah, that's really cool, man. I think learning lesson there is like put yourself in the room. Put yourself whatever that aligns with your goals, just show up, put yourself in the room and then, see what happens from there. I've got some interesting stories about that of some things that are kind of happening now in my world and business. I'm not gonna commandeer this conversation and make it about me, but maybe another story for another time. So tell us about, before we dive into it, tell us a little bit about your brand. You have a brand called Movita, and to just give us a little bit of just background information on like who you are and what your business is.
Yeah, sure. So Movida started in 2014, so 10 years ago. And it's kind of like a healthy option in the QSR industry, yeah, the quick service restaurant industry. And the reason why we started at a business partner and myself 10 years ago, it was because we noticed that there were not a lot of options of healthy eating in the fast food industry. And it was like, you know what? Why don't we start it? So my business partner, he's the one that operates the business, and he's very knowledgeable. He's very good. He's been working in the juicing industry for like the last like 18, 20 years. So he says, you know what? Why don't we start uh, a concept where someone can have the ability to purchase or buy something that it's healthy, instead of the regular, fast food, French fries and hamburgers and stuff like that. So why don't we do a juice bar? And we called it Movida, which means more, and vita, it's an Italian word that means life. So hopefully, when you come to one of our stores, you come out with more life. And that's how the name Movida came out to be.
So our team have looked into a few hundred franchises and put together a list of 5 low-cost franchises that all make $1 million or more and that have a proven track record of both happy and profitable franchisees. So if you have a net worth of at least $150,000 and you want to see if the territory that you want is still available for any of these franchises, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. All right, let's get back to the episode. That's really really cool. And this conversation will be fun because obviously my franchises were in the juice and smoothie space, so something that I'm pretty familiar with. What really intrigued me and impressed me about what you're doing and what you've done is the fact that you have 13 corporate locations. And so you guys had 13 locations before you ever decided to franchise. Tell me more about that.
So we actually got to 10 corporate locations before we started franchising.
Okay.
And then we continued to open corporate stores, which got to 13. Now, the reason we did that is because when we opened the first store, it was like a huge hit. It was in the city of Downey, California. Uh, but, as a lot of the businesses, sometimes you can be a one hit wonder based on that specific location. So one of the things that we wanted to do is like, okay, so why don't we open a second location in a totally different demographics, in a totally different city? So we went to Pasadena, and then we opened another one in Pasadena, then we opened another one in Santa Clarita. So when we got to 5, 6 stores and we were profitable, and the stores were selling, around, just to kind of like give you an idea, the corporate stores, they sell between 1.2 to 1,250,000 per year, gross sales. So when we got to the fifth stores, we started like thinking, hey, what about if we start franchising? Well, let's open more and let's make sure that, that we can actually, the concept can survive and can thrive in different cities, different demographics. So let's concentrate on that. Another thing that we did is that we noticed that the more stores that we had more purchase power. Um, so in regards to the product and the price of the product, we brought the cost down, the cost of goods, which was very, very important to be able to survive in the franchise industry. Because at the end of the day, the distribution of the product, I think it's something that can kill a franchisee, right? So when we got to 10 stores, it was like, you know what? I think it's time for us to start franchising. And we started the process. When we started the process, I didn't know it was going to take that long and it was going to take that much money. But we did it. It took us like 1 year and a half because we wanted to do it right. And we wanted to do it with the right attorney, with the right people. We wanted to hire the right people in regards to, hey, who's going to do the training, the manuals, the videos, everything that a franchisee would need to be successful. So it took us like a year and a half, and that was basically, we got the approval last year of 2023.
Wow. That's really cool and interesting. And to me, the reason why it's so unique is because you have a lot of I've seen it so many times, and it's very common these days where someone has one location and or unit, whether in the service business, and then they use that as the platform then to then go franchise the business. And what it is that they sell a lot of franchises on are showing that, hey, we've got this one affiliate location, the technical term that's often used in the FDD. And then they grow based on that, that one location. I think there's a lot of potential risks there for the franchisees because it is like you're saying, it could be one hit wonder, and operating one individual location is a completely different business than launching a franchise system and supporting franchisees. So the fact that you guys put your money where your mouth was first and opened 13 corporate stores, I mean, that takes a tremendous level of risk, capital, courage, experience, which is really cool. What's the biggest thing that you've learned running and operating those 13 locations?
That's a very good question, Tariq, because like you said, one store, two stores, you're not going to be able to discover a lot of the things that you will discover once you have six, seven, eight, nine stores. And I think the discovery process was the location. Like if you kind of like messed up on the wrong location, no matter how good the concept is, and you know this, no matter how good you operate the business, if it's on the wrong location, you're not going to be successful, or at least you're not going to make enough money. So that was one of the things that we discovered because we did make a mistake on the third store. It wasn't the best type of location that we would have wanted, and we kind of like pay the price because the numbers are not as good as the other ones. So
What made it like, what made it not a good location?
it was the density. So one of the things that we really look for is the density of the people that actually live within 1 mile of each store, right? And on this one, it was kind of like it was a lot of new homes that were going to be built, but that were not built yet. There was a lot of empty lots there. So the density, it was around, just to give you an idea, it was like 8,000 to 9,000 per square mile. Um, you know, radius. Most of our stores are like 20,000 plus. So we noticed that the density had a direct effect on the number of sales. So that was one of the mistakes that we made. And but those are the things that we wanted to learn because once you get into franchising, it's just like you're investing into our brand, and that money gets invested, and we don't want to lose your money. At the end of the day, you're an entrepreneur, you're the one that is going to take the risk, but we want to mitigate that risk as much as we can with the information that we already have. When you have 10, 13 corporate stores, there's a lot of stuff that you know that maybe a franchisee doesn't know, right? So we make sure that we give him a lot of information or enough information for that franchisee to be successful. So that's why it took us so long before we actually started franchising. So to answer your question, location was definitely one of them.
Yeah, yeah, very, very interesting, and it makes sense. I mean, I had my own experience with that when we opened up the store in California, and actually, what was interesting is that the there were some of the demographics that were off in that location where the franchisor actually came back and they were like, "Tarek, we don't know. This doesn't meet some of our, criteria." And I kind of no, I was gonna say I strong arm them, but that's not true because I just made a case. I did my homework and I researched all of the development that was happening. Went on the city's website. There were it kind of similar instance. There were all these homes and apartment complexes that were being built, and I just said to them, I said, "Look, I don't I don't know if the store how it's going to do the first year. Like we may not make much money the first year, but I had more of like a 3-year time horizon, and I thought in 3 years the store is going to be really successful. And in it was a brand new shopping center, it was a dirt lot, and you already had leases signed for Habit Burger, Taco Bell, Dunkin' Donuts, right? So when you have those sort of concepts, coming in, that gives you some level of kind of pre due diligence because they wouldn't be opening there, right? If they didn't see the opportunity to, and fortunately, because there wasn't any other competitors within a 5-mile radius, that I think compensated for the demographics and the fact that the shopping center all opened at one time. So there was all this demand that came, flooding in to the shopping center. But then when we bought the store in Florida as a resale, there was I didn't do my proper homework. I went in kind of cocky, thinking, "Oh, our first store was successful right away. I knew what I was doing. Like I'm really gonna make this work." And over the span of that year that it took of me doing the due diligence and trying to sell our house in California, there were a couple of other competitors that had opened up near that store in Florida, and we didn't live in Florida, so I didn't know that market, I didn't know that community, and so, man, that store was hard. It was very hard, and what came very easy, at the store in California was very difficult at that Florida store. We did wind up increasing sales by 35% year over year after buying it, but it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, and I was working in the store every day for a long time. And so there were a lot of lessons that I learned, from that experience, but also the just outside of the competitors, the location was it was a transient area where there was a lot of traffic, but there was a lot of people passing by, not stopping, and so that was interesting as well. So let me ask you this. So that third store, you open it, it's not seeing the same success. Do you guys still have that store?
Yes, yes, we do. It is actually profitable, but not as profitable as the other ones.
Yeah. So how do you after you open that third store, some people have that experience and they get nervous and they go, "You know what? I think we'll stop at 3," cuz now the lack of, let's say, success in that store it makes them nervous, right? And it kind of creates doubt. Did that happen for you before opening the fourth, or what were you thinking then going into continuing to open more locations?
I think we saw the reason, right? And I think that we saw that we made a mistake. So that's why we didn't get discouraged because I think that we would have get discouraged if it was kind of like the same demographics and the kind of like the same type of location that we previously opened. I think that would get us definitely nervous, but on this case, it didn't because we actually noticed the reasons why it wasn't as successful as the other ones. So we just like, continue with opening other stores.
Yeah. And so someone watching right now and maybe thinking, wow, I'd really love to have 3, 5, 10 locations and kind of build my own, little empire. When as you were opening those first stores, how did you fund it? And how are you getting the funding to open, that many stores so quickly? What was your strategy?
So the funding came from myself because I had some savings. I've been in the real estate business for like the last 25 years, mortgage financing, real estate. So when we got into the business, I had a good amount of money where, we were kind of like ready to open at least 3 stores with that money. So after that, we actually gathered a little bit more money from friends and family. And later on, we got into an SBA loan. So that's kind of like the way that we finance, all of the stores.
Yeah, wow. What was after opening those first couple of stores? I mean, were you seeing the return right away, or were you scared after you're starting to put out that much capital that quickly?
When you're an entrepreneur, Tariq, and I think you know this, you're always going to be scared, right? Especially when you're thinking big. So there was a lot of sleepless nights because even if you're making money, you're investing that money into another store, right? So you never have money. Like you look at your bank account and you're always negative because you want to grow and you're always going to invest that money. And the thing is that the growth process, it's complicated because people might think, oh, you know what, you have 5 stores now, so you're making a lot more money. But one of the things that people sometimes don't understand that you do have a lot more debt, you have a lot more employees, you have leases, you have a lot of liabilities that you didn't have when you have one store. As a matter of fact, when a franchisee, if it's a franchisee that I see that doesn't have a lot of experience in business, they get excited and they try to buy three, four, five franchise agreements. I tell them, I said, listen, why don't we start with one? Let's do what you need to do with one store, which is operate the store the right way, right? Because at the end of the day, the franchisee, I think the three most important things is the operation of the store. So it's operation of the store, the local marketing, and finding the right location. So why don't we go through that process? So start with one. Let's see how it works. Let's see how you feel. Let's see if it's kind of like the right business for you. Uh, Before you get into two, three, four, five stores, because people get excited, Tariq. I mean, they get excited on the location. Hey, you know what? I found a great location. It's only 2 blocks from my house. And one of the things is that you choose the location, but we have to approve it. So we have to know, we have to protect you from yourself, right? Because we know a lot more. We have a lot more experience. It's not like it's going to be 100% that you're going to be successful, but we have a lot of that information where we can help you be successful as much as we can. So it is tough, the growing pains. It's tough, but you got to go through it. If you really, really want to be successful, you got to go through those pains.
Hey, so if you want to figure out if you should buy a franchise and learn the fastest and easiest way to figuring out the best franchise to buy and everything you need to know about the process, then you'll want to go get access to our Franchise Buyers Academy. In our Franchise Buyers Academy, you'll get a behind the scenes look into specific franchises and exactly how much money they are making. You'll get simple formulas for finding money making franchises and a blueprint on how to scale them into a franchise empire that can be sold for a lot of money later on. You'll be able to finally answer the question on, should I buy a franchise? Now you can get access at franchiseempire.com/FBA. Now let's get back to the episode. Yeah, lots of lessons there. That's so rare, by the way. The more I talk to you, the more I just love the way that you guys are doing things because oh yeah, there's a lot of franchisors, especially now in this day and age, the franchise sales and development process in some instances has gotten really aggressive and really just salesy and kind of promising the stars and the moon and the kind of the I mean the franchisor community know it. I think a lot of people that are in franchise sales know it, but the kind of dirty little secret is that uh units sold and units opened are two completely different things. And a lot of people who buy 3, 5 of anything often don't get, a bunch of them open, and they spend money on licenses that they never buy. Now, that's certainly not always the case, and there are many people who do buy 3 licenses, whether that's a service or retail, and will get them open, but I'd say it's probably most common in the retail space just because of how expensive build outs can be, finding leases, you know, et cetera. So, I mean, has that there's always that balance, and I don't think anyone's trying to be malicious, but I think that the franchisors can often be in the place where it's like, hey, we need, someone wants to buy licenses and we could use the money in capital because running a franchise system is expensive. So let's let them buy it. So how do you balance that? You know, the fact that people are excited, you could say, hey, yeah, let's yeah, go ahead, buy a couple licenses, it'll boost your bottom line because you guys are receiving additional capital. How do you temper that to kind of what you're saying your approach is? That's not that's a lot harder. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of temptation, right? Because if someone comes in and says, "Hey, I want to purchase five," you kind of like see the dollar signs and says, "Well, he's going to pay me five franchisee fees." At the end of the day, I think that you have to have a clear idea of how, as a franchisor, as a brand, how are you going to be successful? Like, what is going to make us successful? Is it going to make us successful having sold 100 franchises agreements? Or is it going to make us successful opening 25 solid stores that those franchisees are going to open more, maybe one more, maybe two more, hopefully four more. It really depends. Uh, so, what's really the thing that is going to make us successful as a brand? Having stores that open, that are successful, franchisees that are successful, franchisees that can say that they're successful with our brand. That's what's going to make us successful. So we kind of like rather go that route, because going the other route, I think that someone that pays five franchisee agreements and only opens once, he's gonna say it, right? I mean, he's gonna, hey, someone's gonna ask him, why did you open the other five? Oh, you know what? Because I tried to do three leases at the same time. I wasn't ready. I didn't have the people to do three stores. Because at the end of the day, you know this, right? So one store, it could be easily operated if you're gonna be an owner operator. But having two stores and three stores, it's a totally different dragon. Why? Because you're going to have to operate it with other people. And some people don't have those skills to get the right people to operate the other stores. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that could buy 10 stores and only opening one of them. And I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be extremely happy with having to pay 10 and only opening one. So, I don't think it's going to be good advertising for the brand.
Yeah. Yeah, very very good point. So as you guys were opening those corporate locations, how can walk me through how you guys were building your team and how you were managing, that many stores? And you mentioned you have a partner who sounds like is kind of more hands-on. How do you guys balance your kind of roles and responsibilities in the business?
So my business partner Raul Rodriguez, he's the CEO of the company. So he's the one that pretty much takes care of supervising everyone in the team. Uh, Me myself, I concentrate more due to the real estate background that I have on the location. So I'm the one that kind of like goes and makes sure that that would be the right location. So we have systems in place where it gives me a lot of data. If you send me a location, I'll be able to see a lot of data regarding the number of visits of that shopping center. So we use a lot of systems to not only go and see the property and see the location and say, you know what, my hunch is that this is going to be a good location. So it's not like that. So we gather a lot of data from that specific location or that shopping center that we share with the franchisee. I sit down with them, we do meetings and make sure that he's comfortable with those numbers, he's comfortable with the demographic. Like, I'll give him the information, and he's at the end of the day going to be able to decide if that is the right location or not. So that's what I do on the real estate side, locations. I'm the vice president of the company, and my business partner Raul is the one that takes care of all the other stuff as a CEO.
Yeah, very very interesting. Um Cool. And so where are you guys at now in terms of like size and amount of franchisees, stuff like that? Like tell me about kind of the growth that you guys have experienced and where you guys are at in that kind of process.
Yeah, so we signed approximately 26, 27 franchise agreements. Out of those, four stores are actually open, uh, and the other ones are in the process of looking for locations, uh, negotiating the leases, in the build out process. So I think on 2025 next year, we'll be able to open approximately 12 to 15 stores,
Wow.
and so on. So that's where pretty much we're at. In regards to states, so we started here in the state of California, uh, and there's a franchise agreement that we did in Miami, in Florida. There's two stores, two franchise agreements that we have in the state of Nevada, and there's another one in the state of Arizona.
So California, Miami, Nevada, and Arizona.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. And do you guys have specific markets that you're targeting and wanting to focus on and concentrate on?
Yes. So the specific markets that we're working right now, it's Florida, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, and California.
Why those states?
Uh, they're kind of like they're kind of like we feel that they were kind of like the strongest states, and they're very very entrepreneurial friendly, business friendly to franchising. So that's why we started with those states. Even though we do have the FTD approvals for other states, we're concentrating on those first.
Makes sense. And I know you kind of briefly shared numbers, but what are some of the numbers associated to the business? Like what are the startup costs or the startup cost range, as well as like what do you guys show in your item 19, at least for your your corporate locations?
Yeah, so the item 19, it's very weak at the moment because we do the reporting until March of next year. So because the franchisees are fairly new, they started last year. The franchise on the item 19 of the franchise agreement on the FDD, uh, you're not going to see a lot of information regarding numbers. But just to give you an idea on the corporate stores, we have an average of yearly sales, annual sales of 1.2 million per store.
Average.
Average. That's our average. Yes.
That's insane.
Yes.
That's insane over 13 locations. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Another thing that we did, Tariq, is that we concentrated from the beginning on being able to have a very good, solid, well organized, efficient distribution center. So that way, I think that as a franchisee, the cost of goods is super, super important because at the end of the day, cost of goods and labor costs is going to be the two biggest expenses that you're going to have um, in your business. So we concentrated a lot on the distribution center, so that way the cost of goods for the franchisee it's efficient and it's not expensive. So we were able to build a distribution center here in California. And in other states, that way you do it is that you make relationships with distribution centers outside California to try to bring the best product, but at the end of the day, at the lowest cost to the franchisee. And again, it goes back to where you want to make your money. Like, what is, as a franchisor, is going to make you successful, right? Is it going to be growing the brand, or is it going to be making money on the distribution? And I think a lot of franchisors concentrate a lot more on, hey, you know what? I don't care. At the end of the day, you're going to have to buy from me, and that's where I'm going to make my money. So we didn't take, or we don't take that approach. At the end of the day, the way that we're going to grow as a brand, it's having successful franchisees, and we're very very clear on that. So if you're successful as a franchisee, we're going to be successful. So that's what we want to achieve.
Yeah, that's definitely a different perspective because I remember and it's very common in the franchise space that franchisors, either get kickbacks from certain manufacturers or distributors or whatever it is. So it's a common thing. It's part of their revenue stream. And I remember when I had learned that our franchisor, I think they had like these proprietary supplement blends, and they were making like 50 or 60% of the amount. I think that's what was disclosed in the in the FDD. And yeah, I mean, the franchisor still has to make money, right? So it's not necessarily right or wrong, but I mean, your approach is definitely like a longer term franchisee focused perspective of saying, hey, we're not going to try to make our money there. We're going to try to have successful franchisees as much as possible that are as making as much as money as possible. And yeah, I think that has a totally different impact, right? Because all of a sudden, where someone might normally a competing system, where maybe on average the owner only owns one, maybe on average your owners own two or three, which on the long term completely changes the financials for you guys as a franchisor, which is cool. One of the things that I had asked you when we first met, and was really curious, is like, man, you're in a really competitive space. I mean, the juice and smoothie business. I mean, you've got a lot of different brands, and so how do you guys compete, and really what's making you guys different in that space? So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when we started, we wanted to have a clear idea of what the concept was going to be. And our concept is basically more into the health industry. So everything that we do, everything that we sell, we always try to uh, make sure that it's going to be a product that is going to be healthy for you. And, not everything, it's going to be health oriented because we have, for example, an acai bowl that has Nutella, right? So, people might say, hey, wait a minute, but Nutella is not as healthy as, well, yeah, but you do have a lot of other options, where you're going to have the best type of product, organic, local grown, fresh. So just to give you an idea, so the almond milk, we actually make our own almond milk because one of the things that we notice is that you being in the juicing industry before on this space, once you do a smoothie, you have to use a certain type of base, right? And the base that we were using in the beginning, it was almond milk. But we noticed that when we buy the almond milk from a specific brand, it was almond, it was water, and maybe five or six different preservatives that they use, right? Because uh, if not, it's not going to last. That product is not going to last a lot. But at the end of the day, is that our concept? Was that our concept of selling a product where it has tons of preservatives? So what we decided to do is that we do our own almond milk. So our almond milk is just almonds and water. So we make them at the stores, and we make sure that we offer those type of products. Another thing that we do, for example, is that we make our own blend of protein. So we went to a lab and we make sure that the protein that we're pretty much putting on the smoothies, because your smoothie comes in automatically with 1 scoop of protein. So we don't charge you extra on the protein unless you need 2 or 3 scoops. Then we charge you extra, but it comes with 1 scoop of protein automatically. But see, the protein that we noticed that we were buying at the beginning, the ones that, it usually gets distributed to the other brands, some of it, it's a very low quality of protein. So we said, you know what, let's make our own protein, let's make our own blend. So we went to a specific distributor and we made our own blend, very high quality of protein. So things like that, it's I feel that it makes us unique. It makes it different from other brands. I'm not saying that other brands, don't use high quality of products, but we do. Like we make sure that we do. We don't use additional processed sugar. Like we only use agave nectar, for example, to sweeten some of the smoothies. Uh, Everything that we use in regards to fruits and vegetables is fresh. So we don't freeze it. You'll
Oh,
guess.
really?
Yeah,
Even in the smoothies?
even on the smoothies, even on the smoothies. So
Wow.
every fruit or vegetable that goes into your smoothie or your juice, it's fresh. Yeah, it's not frozen.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, that was one of the, for I'm a bit of a nerd in this space, just given that, I had, owned a couple of juice and smoothie franchises. And one of the things that people just don't realize, I mean, I don't want to say there's consumer ignorance, but they just don't know is that, people go to like something like a tropical smoothie or a Jamba Juice or whatever and think that they're having a healthy smoothie, but most of the time it's not. If you look at kind of the sugar content, it can be through the roof. Now that could happen just through fruit, right? Because fruit has a lot of sugar. Um, but yeah, a lot of the times there's all sorts of things that are added, and that was we kind of had the best of both worlds at our concept in the sense that we had kind of the healthier stuff, but still we and but there was a lot of sugar added. Like so, a lot of the smoothies had frozen yogurt added, which has a lot of sugar, very sweet, and sherbet. All the classic smoothies had sherbet added to it, and sherbet is basically a dessert. I mean, it is a dessert. I mean, that's a treat. And so you had, sherbet. And so one, from a couple different things that skyrocketed the sugar content. Two, as an example, sherbet has dairy. I'm lactose intolerant. So I couldn't have our classic smoothies. Unless I, was taking my lactate pills, but oftentimes I just, I didn't want to have one of the classic ones because they just had, too much sugar in it. And then a lot of those smoothies also had, apple juice, papaya juice, all sorts of juices that were made from concentrate, as the base. And so, for someone who is a purist, or wanting to have kind of the highest quality option out there, I mean, that just definitely wasn't the case.
Yeah, so I went out of state and I was craving a smoothie, so I went to one of us like a smoothie store, and I'm very very specific to what I eat. I try to be as healthy as possible. So I asked for the berry smoothie because most of the smoothie places are gonna have the berry smoothie, and I noticed that they were gonna serve like the base of that smoothie because you always use a base. You've been in the smoothie industry in the this field, you know that all of the smoothies are gonna need a base, right? So the base was cranberry juice. It's just the ocean's cranberry juice, which has tons of sugar. So when I noticed that, I said, "Hey, can you use like another type of base?" It was like, "What do you mean?" Like, yeah, I mean, can you just put water? At the end of the day, I ended up eating the smoothie with water. I told her, I don't know, I just put water. Because, you know, it's not, and you know what? I don't want to knock anyone's concept because maybe the concept it's a refreshment is not actually something that is going to be healthy. I think that people got the idea that maybe going into those stores, they're going to get something that is healthy, and it's not. I don't even think that they're advertising it as something healthy. But see, in our concept, we really thrive to make it as healthy as possible. It's not going to be 100% where you're gonna have, because anyone can tell you, like you said, hey, fruit has sugar, right? At the end of the day, fruit has sugar, but we try to mediate as, so I'll give you an example. Orange has a lot of sugar, so we don't serve oranges. Like if you go to one of our stores, if you ask, hey, can I have an orange juice? No, you can't. So
Interesting.
yeah, so we will give you a combination of carrot juice and orange juice. And the orange, we actually use the whole orange. So we put the whole orange. So that way you can at least get the fiber from the white part of the orange, which is the one that has the most enzymes, vitamins, and all that kind of stuff, right? So we want you to get that part instead of just getting the juice, because if you're going to get the juice, you're going to get most of the sugar. So we kind of like even protect you from yourself, because some people don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? So when some people come in and says, "Hey, can I have an orange juice?" Oh, sorry, you cannot. But we'll give you this alternatives. We'll give you a combination of this and that, and we try to educate the consumer of why we sell certain stuff.
That's funny. Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, very very interesting. Before we go, curious about the you were talking about how you guys make your almond milk in house. And so does that how does that impact margin? Is it cheaper or is it more expensive to do it in house?
It's when you go into something like this, you got to be very very careful, because at the end of the day, you want to have a good product, but at the end of the day, you got to be profitable, right? And so how do you do it? So we do, when we go through a process, we found a vendor that can give us organic almonds. So we try to make it for the franchisee that they're going to be able to offer that product at a lower cost. So at the end of the day, it comes out to a lower cost than if you were actually buying, the silk almond milk that we were buying before. So how do you execute uh, being able to serve those type of products is very very important, because at the end of the day, we also got to support the franchisee not to incur into higher cost. So yes, in a way, we do it in the stores, but we do it in a way where it's not going to cost you a lot. The product is not going to be more expensive than what it was before.
Yeah, cool. Very very interesting.
So the base that we use, for example, on the berry smoothies, we do our own cold brew hibiscus. So it's basically hibiscus water. We use cinnamon, hibiscus water, and that's what we use for the berry smoothies, which is very good for your health. Instead of using the cranberry juices that a lot of the competitors use.
Yeah, very interesting. Cool. Well, Jorge, thanks for coming on. For anyone who wants to learn more about your your brand and what you guys are doing, where should they go?
You know what? They can go to our website, Movita Juice Bar, .com. Just go to franchising, and it'll give you a lot of information of our brand, our concept, the cost, and everything that it has to do with franchising.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Again, your story is impressive. Really cool what you guys are building. And yeah, just looking forward to seeing how you guys continue to succeed.
Oh, thank you so much, Arik, for having me, and I look forward on seeing you on Austin. Are you going to go to that event?
No, I don't think so.
It's on November.
No, I
No,
won't.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, cool. I look forward on seeing you in another podcast, maybe.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, before we go, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't already. And the biggest thank you that you could ever give me is to share this episode with someone who you think will benefit. That means that we can share this message with more people and hopefully positively inspire them like we have you. So thank you. And until next time, go build your empire.